It's Wednesday somewhere.
Hey, this is Madalyn Sklar, and welcome to the Social ROI After Chat. Boy, was it amazing today. I have the incredibly awesome Kerry O'Shea Gorgone. Wow, you were incredible today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you. It was my pleasure. It was really fun. It was very fast.
It is like the fastest hour. It is just incredible. And you did such a great job staying caught up with us. What's your secret?
Type fast.
That's
and
like,
I know what I'm going to say.
That's like Brian Fanza with, what is it he says? Talk fast, tweet faster, or maybe it's the other way around. But like, moving fast on Twitter it's an art, it's a skill,
Oh man, no, it's so funny. So like in the 8th grade, they started teaching us typing at school, and I had a typewriter at home so I could practice and stuff. I swear though, it's been like the most valuable thing. It seems so stupid to think about. Everything is computer based. I couldn't get anything done if I couldn't type fast. Funny. It really helps.
Yeah. I took typing like in junior high, and it was like the smartest thing ever. Like I was able to like type so fast. Hey, Jim's here with us. Hey, Jim, good to see you. One of our regulars on the Social ROI chat. We have a great community. I mean, they come back week after week. They just love talking and having this opportunity to be in front of a guest like you and being able to get inspired and energized with all this valuable stuff. So the hot topic was disclosures. Oh my gosh. So tell us more about disclosures. Like what? No. it's like, you're so funny. It's something that people don't do. And from the discussion we had, people didn't know about it, right? Like that's what I took from the discussion. Most people didn't know about it that were on the chat.
Yeah. You know what happens all the time is I'll hear people say, like, I'll give a talk about this or something. And then the people in the audience say, well, so-and-so doesn't do that, or this person doesn't do that. And I'm like, sweetheart, I know. Like, I know. Like, I'm beating this drum all the time. I know they're not doing it, but that doesn't mean that they're not supposed to. And so the FTC is like ramping up to getting more and more serious, and they're going to start suing people. And it's like, even if you don't get sued, they're going to go after the brands that work with influencers. They're going to cut off your lifeline, So it's like, you have to be responsible for the brand's own good, but also for you. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Kevin says, wait, I was trying to do his other message. Here we go. He was saying, thank you, that this was fantastic, and that we need an update in 12 months or so. So I guess that's Kevin's way of saying he wants you back on the chat. So that's awesome. That I think, Kevin, I agree 100%. This was super helpful, very informative. Joe said really enjoyed the chat today. I'm just so amazed. Now, for those that are here live with us, if you have a question, fire away. And, we're continuing this conversation with Kerry. I found it interesting that on the chat, so many people were saying, they're bringing up the celebrities. And it's like, it doesn't make it right that they're not properly disclosing. What can we do?
I blame them more, like if anything, than the average. Like the average person who built a YouTube following by hand, like fine, so they don't have people to tell them, "Hey, you're shilling." Like, say something about it. But Kim Kardashian should know. Like, I'm singling her out. I shouldn't be, but like all the celebrities,
but she does know.
They know they have a right of publicity. They actively broker deals to benefit from it. It's like they should know better. They really should know better. So for sure. But I feel bad for the average person who just is getting into this and is so excited, and they get to make a little money, and then they get, slammed because they don't disclose.
So if you were doing this wrong, what's going to happen first? You're just going to get a letter saying, hey, change this, or you're going to get fined and go to jail?
Well,
like, how does it work?
You're going to go to jail. No, like nothing might happen for a while, like for a long time, actually, until it does, like with Lord & Taylor, they had this whole line of dresses, and they paid influencers different amounts of money, like a few $1,000s. Plus they got free dresses to promote this one fashion line. And they didn't require those people to say that they were paid or received anything at all. And so they didn't. And they did actually, Lord and Taylor actively reviewed people's posts before they went up, but they were looking to make sure that they used the hashtag, that they, talked about the dress. They didn't care about disclosure. So, I mean, I don't know, the sentence got away from me, I guess, but what I'm saying is everybody needs to be thinking about that. But the more active a role you play in kind of curating, like, the posts that people are paid to write about you, the more careful you better be about policing disclosure. Can't just let it like pass through. That's bad.
And then there was an interesting question that got brought about should your disclosure be above the fold? And you were saying that it should be top, bottom, everywhere, right? Like put it all over.
Well, unavoidable. So it's not like your whole thing has to look like a NASCAR car and like have disclosures all over it. But if you're viewing the site on mobile, you should not be able to see that post and click away to the sponsor's landing page without seeing a disclosure. Like that's critically important. So whatever you have to do to make that impossible to miss, whether that's, positioning on the page, like at the very top, or font or a pop-up, like whatever you have to do. The FTC has been very clear, but it doesn't have to be like this horrible legalese paragraph. It can just be like, hey, this company brought me to Mexico to review their 5-star resort. They paid my expenses. And from there, it's like, you have to let people make their own decisions. Like you just have to trust readers to ascribe the amount of influence they think that would have. And they're either going to trust your opinion or they're not. But if you've been hiding the ball from them, they're definitely not going to trust your opinion because they're not going to trust anything you say. So,
right.
It's just about being clear. Like Chris Brogan does a good job. I mentioned this during the chat, but if he's been paid to write a post, he'll say it's pitchy, silly. And like everybody knows what that means. It means he got money to write a post. It doesn't mean that they paid to, tell him what he thinks. Nobody tells Chris what to think, but like,
right.
So you ascribe to that the significance you think it deserves, but the people have the choice to make,
And so it doesn't matter whether you're actually being paid money or you're being paid in service, so they, you go to a conference, they pay for your hotel, they pay for their airfare. What are you supposed to do in return?
That's a good question.
Does it get kind of gray?
No, it's really not. Well, I mean, it's not that gray. So anytime you've received something or you have a relationship with the brand you're talking about that's not immediately apparent, you should say something about it, right? Even if it's like somebody that used to give you free stuff all the time and you've gone to their conference as press or something, so you got a free pass. I mean, it's worth it to mention that. And that's not, again, trust people to make their own decisions about whether or not you are unduly influenced by that. I mean, it's annoying. Like if you get a little packet of detergent, I would just say like, I got a free sample. Everybody knows a free whatever.
Right.
You're not going to like pimp yourself out for a little packet of Tide. Everybody knows that, but just say anyways that you got it. What you don't have to do though, and we talked about this morning, but like I laugh whenever I see people say, I didn't receive anything to write this post. I did not get paid. I did not get samples. I didn't get a trip. I just super love the brand. And I'm like, okay, don't get excited. Like
nice that does that in videos. I'm thinking he must, because he's a big YouTuber, right? And he must have gotten in a lot of trouble for not doing it. Because I notice in every video now, if he's getting paid to do something, he like keeps like almost like flashing it in your face for 5 seconds, like paid. And then if it's not, he's very clear, like, by the way, I'm not being paid. I'm just giving So I take that as
it could be, or it could just be to minimize hassle because, like I said, people are always like, he doesn't do that or she doesn't do that and blah, blah. So they're probably making assumptions about whether he's been paid. And so for him to clarify that is making his life easier in the long run. But like the average person, I don't need to say that. Like if I bought my own cupcakes from Publix and I want to tweet about Publix.
Right. And Kevin asked, what if it's a contract deal? Do you mean contract or contra?
Contra. I bet you're contraband. Like they send you weed.
Contraband.
They're like, get high and tweet about our brand.
Oh my gosh. You are funny. But I guess there's a lot of gray area there. There's probably a lot of gray area with this.
I don't know. It's kind of like, I would disclose no matter what it was and just give it the attention it deserves. Like if you have a multi-year sponsored relationship with a brand, that deserves more time and disclosure attention than like a packet of Tide that you get in the mail for free, So just use
Right.
your own
And
best
so,
judgment about that. Oh, a
Kevin's
barter.
clarifying a barter. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
he says, I promote you, you promote me. I do a lot of that. It's interesting. I got into online marketing all the way back in 1996. I saw the power of the internet way back then. And I built an online community for women in music. And the bulk of things I got were trades. Like it was a lot of you help me, I help you. And it was really seen as they're advertising on my site, but instead of giving me money, I give them space to advertise. In exchange, they'll give me a bunch of free stuff, right? But it was never said like, oh, you got to disclose that you're getting this and they're getting that. I don't know. I've just never really understood where's that line? Or I guess you're saying that you're really in the line. You just do it regardless.
I mean, there's people that I love and just love their stuff and promote them all the time. Like I buy Johnny Cupcakes t-shirts at retail and talk about how much I like them, or I have. I mean, I'm like, it's not my life, but I like them. And so, there are natural, organic, kind of relationships like that. So I think it is important to distinguish between something like that or, somebody like Mac Collier or Chris Brogan, whose stuff I just love, and I share it. It's important to distinguish between that and like some kind of a barter arrangement, because that is still payment of a kind. So I would just say something like, we're partners or we're promotional partners or we, work together. I mean, I would say something probably about that. But again, you don't have to like knock people over the head with it. You're not their publicist, so.
Right. And Joe is actually kind of going back to the contra deal, saying it's an arrangement where two or more parties exchange goods or services with no money changing hands.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like I blogged for you in exchange for a pack of ho-hos. Get it. I understood.
Right. I never heard of it called a contra deal. That's interesting wording. I wonder if that's an Australian thing, Joe. I'd be curious. I'll have to go Google this now.
But it is important to have a contract if you're going to have a relationship with a brand. I mean, a lot of people don't. Sure. They're just so thrilled that, they're going to get paid, because a lot of influencers, they still don't get paid. I think they ought to, depending like how much work you're talking about. They really ought to.
There's so much debate on that, because there's so many conferences that don't pay us as speakers, but they'll pay for the airfare, they'll pay for the hotel, they'll pay for something to sweeten the deal. But I've talked with a lot of other influencers, and we all are like, what do you do with that? Do you just keep going down that road? And then when you do, these conferences and events get used to not being paid. I went through this in the music business. This was a huge thing. It's already bad enough musicians don't feel like they're getting paid for their stuff. Everybody wants it for free. But then same thing, they go play a show and the promoter doesn't want to pay them, or the owner of the cafe doesn't want to pay them. And it's like, well, they play for free drinks. There's just so much of this, exchange of services. It's very interesting.
No, I mean, they should. But the thing is, until everybody insists that they should be getting paid, no one's going to, because, they'll always find someone to do it for free. So you can't pay your rent with exposure. I get it. I do.
Right. Absolutely. One of the questions we had in the chat was talking about the 140 characters, restricting you on Twitter. And you made a comment about like, if it's an issue, just don't tweet at all. And I found that to be quite interesting.
That's the FTC is like tough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. That's how you said it. That's right. That's how you said it. Mm-hmm. And so I guess like the FTC doesn't care. Like if you are going to be doing this, and you can't fit in 140 characters, just post it at other places. Don't put it out on Twitter. Because I see a lot of influencers going the Twitter route.
They make it work, is what they're saying. Like they know you're not going to avoid Twitter. Like what they're saying really is, back in the early days, like back before people had any idea that social media was going to be the thing that it is, like the juggernaut that it is, people would say maybe in one tweet, hey, so I got paid by, whatever, MAC Cosmetics to talk about blah. And then they would tweet like 17 times about how great MAC Cosmetics were, and they would never mention again that they were paid. And you know how Twitter is. It's like gets flooded with stuff, and you're not going to read somebody's tweets necessarily in the order in which they made them and all this stuff. So basically they were like, yeah, you got to do better. And in the beginning, they were just like slapping people down, like, nope, not good enough. Nope, not good enough. And so we're like, all right, great. So like, what would be good enough? And that's one thing they're not like super about saying, like, what would be good enough? So, I mean, I always err on the side of caution, but even on Twitter, you could fit like client, and people know what that means, or sponsored, the whole word, not like SPON, but the whole word. Most people know what that means.
Yeah.
Just think about that, or ad, they get what that means.
Yeah.
And then when they click the link that you post in the tweet and go to your site, then you have plenty of space to explain whatever it is your relationship is. And I would do it with each post, because when you think about it, every relationship is a little different. So it's not even enough to have a blanket thing that says, I may or may have gotten paid, and maybe I didn't, or I might have gotten stuff. It's like, really be clear about what you got, because every relationship or situation is different. So just be honest about what that was. Doesn't have to take forever. Doesn't have to take a lot of space. Just be clear. It's pretty easy. But yeah, the FTC was like, oh, poor you, can't fit it in 140 characters. We super don't care. Tough.
Right. And 140 characters is not a lot of space, so it seems like pound ad. That's what you see the most people.
Yeah, but who searches for that? Like, you're just wasting the character. Like, just say ad.
I know, because there's really no need to hashtag it, right? You just put ad,
and don't bury it either. Like, that's one thing that the FTC said when they sent all those letters to influencers and celebrities. They're like, stop putting like 150 hashtags, and one of them is ad.
Right, like on Instagram, which was talked about during the chat, because that can totally get buried. Now, when they sent those letters out to the influencers, do you feel like much has changed since that happened?
No, not really. I mean, well, what's changed is the plausible deniability that they maybe had about, well, I didn't know, or, who could say what's okay on Instagram? Everybody does this. Now they know better. So that's gone. I haven't noticed a big change in their behavior, but it's how the FTC responds to that behavior will change. And the brands will get fined, and, that money will dry up if people don't start being smarter about what they do.
Right. Absolutely. And Jim says, next Twitter innovation, disclosures won't count against 140 characters. That would be really cool. Do you think that would be a possibility that they would come up with? Or do you think
anything is possible? I think they probably don't care, but they should care. I mean, so they've got, they could do Twitter cards. You actually could probably do that, like put a disclosure in a Twitter card. Wouldn't it be sexy? You could. You could do something like that and make it work, probably. But could they do it? Sure. Will they do it? Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like how are they going to police that?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Make an example out of Kim Kardashian, right?
You could, right? But what they've been doing now is like they sent letters of warning to Cole Haan and the FTC. I'm trying to think what other companies, but basically they're going to the companies, because that's a one-to-many relationship that they have, companies to influencers. So if they, find the companies are going to be like, screw this. We're not making that kind of, we're like selling dresses isn't going to make up that kind of money, or alarm systems or whatever. So they're just going to like start doing something differently, or they're going to start requiring written agreements where you agree to comply with the law, and then you had better, because then they'll start passing those costs along to influencers, and you don't want any part of that. Like, that's nasty.
Absolutely. This has been really eye-opening, Kerry, and I really appreciate you taking the time and jumping on here and extending the conversation from Twitter to Facebook, doing Facebook Live with us. And I really appreciate everybody that's here live with us. Dorothy is here, and Jim and Joe and Kevin, and it's been so great seeing everybody join us over here. And for those watching the replay, we appreciate you doing it too. Kerry, where should people get in touch if they want to chat with you? Where do you like people connecting with you at?
I'm Kerry Gorgone everywhere, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. My website's kerrygorgone.com, so you can come find me, or you can check out my podcast, marketingprofs.com/podcasts. That
is so awesome. How long have you been podcasting?
Oh my gosh, since 2005, because I had a pregnancy podcast first, and then kept doing that for a few years. Not because I was pregnant for a few years, but because I wanted to continue for a while. And it used to be really hard, and then it got much, much easier years later. But anyway, so I picked up the Marketing Profs podcast. Ann Hanley offered it to me about, I don't know, 4 years ago, I guess. And so now I
Uh-huh.
interview people there every week.
That
It's great.
is so awesome. Well, I just linked
Thank you.
your website here, and I'll pin it on here as well so that people can see that at the top and go check out your site, check out your podcast, go check out all the cool things you're doing. And
Thanks,
thank
Josephine.
you so much. It's been so incredibly awesome having you here with us. I can see that the audience here absolutely loves you. You're definitely a big hit with us, Kerry. We like that.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It was really, really fun.
It was. So we'll definitely have you on again at some point. So I'll definitely be in touch with that. And
Great.
we'll be back again next week for another awesome Twitter chat. Until then, we'll see you. Take care. Bye, everybody.